Okay, I'm not seeing head shaking and panic. Here we are. I'll introduce each of the presenters as we go, but a word or two about the Mayor's Office of Environmental Remediation, where compared to colleagues on here, we're a newer agency created out of the first Plan YC that came out in 2007. And we help property owners clean up their contaminated sites so new buildings and schools and apartments and commercial facilities can go up. We're very proud of the work we do there. And we are under the umbrella of the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. And we're not on the A team for our GIS work, but what we do, we're proud of. So we have a few data sets on the open data portal. We have sites in our cleanup program that I just mentioned. We operate a clean soil bank in the course of doing cleanup. Sometimes people are excavating pristine soil that isn't contaminated, and this is a great resource. So we try to keep it in New York City. So we have databases of sites that generate and receive that material. We also have shape files for community brownfield planning areas and sites in areas in the state Brownfield Opportunity Area program. And I'll just say, with a little plug for next week, if you are representing a community-based organization or a New York City community board and are interested in grant funding to look at areas that might have clusters of underutilized sites, you might be interested in our webinar next week. And there's the URL to register. And finally, we have historic land use information. When the office was first created, we did a survey of vacant, industrially zoned, privately owned sites and looked up a lot of the previous uses on the site. So we have a database of that. And in addition to just simply going to open data and typing in OER for my office, and you'll find these, we display most of our, if not all, of our open data sets on a mapping tool called SPEED, which looks like this. It stands for Searchable Property Electronic Oh, that is wrong. It's Environmental E-Database. Whoa, that's what you get when you don't double check your slides. But the important thing is it says nyc.gov/SPEED. And you can see on the right, there are lots of layers you can turn on about sites in our cleanup program and the state's cleanup program. You also have sites that get E-designations through the environmental review and rezoning process, indicating that there's some kind of environmental issue that needs to be addressed before a project on a site can get a building permit. Feature you're seeing here is you can click on a text lot and the little window pops up where you can ask it to view environmental features, and you can draw a radius of 250 or 500 feet. That's what the green oval is. And then it will show you really all of the things in our SPEED database there. So it's cool. It's fun to explore. I invite everybody to do that. And as we go, feel free to put questions in the chat, and we'll probably save them toward the end to make sure everybody gets through the presentations. When you think of a question, put it in the chat, and then we'll go through and answer them at the end. So that's SPEED. And this is my thank you slide for the end. When you get the presentation, you'll have everybody's email addresses if you have follow-up questions that we don't get to today. And we're glad you're here. That concludes my presentation, and I'm first going to turn it over to Matt from the Department of City Planning.
All right. Thanks, Lee. I'm Matt Croswell from the GIS team at City Planning. I'm the GIS team lead and the open data coordinator here. I've been with the agency for almost 20 years. And I'll be walking you through an overview of the open data products and web applications available at City Planning, and also highlighting a few updates to look out for this year. First, we'll discuss the open data catalog. City Planning has a long history of making our data available to the public. Before the open data law was passed in 2012, we have over 170 different data products on the portal, all with different update frequencies. Just to call out a few, in our monthly, we have mostly a lot of our zoning related data sets. These include zoning districts or mandatory inclusionary housing. We also offer our Pluto and Map Pluto dataset monthly. This is a tax lot-based dataset that contains property and building info. This is one of our most widely used product, and traditionally it was updated quarterly, but just as of last year, we've introduced what we call minor updates or minor versions. And so they are updated monthly and only contain updates to the zoning fields. The major version, or traditional release, is updated quarterly, and that's updates to all fields and the tax lot base. Some other quarterly data sets we have is Lion, which is our street centerline data, districts, so all admin, political, census boundaries citywide. We have less frequent and as needed data sets, capital projects database, census and demographic info for New York City, city facilities like the facilities database or city owned and leased properties, housing database, waterfront and climate sustainability data sets, and many more. All of these data is on our website, and it's also archived there as well. So there's many options for you to access DCP's open data. First, we have our own website, commonly known to or referred to as the Bytes of Big Apple. Here you can download all DCP's data, as well as related metadata and data dictionaries. We also make all of our spatial data available on our ArcGIS online account. You can quickly access that through our REST service links on the Bytes page. And then all of our data is also hosted on the NYC Open Data portal. Besides that, you can also access our data within many of our web applications. So some of our most popular applications include Zola, which Zola is a application that provides a simple way to research zoning regulations. You can find zoning for your property, discover new proposals in your neighborhood, and learn where city planning's initiatives are occurring. We recently updated Zola to include a few new features, including search history, compare tax lots, which allows you to select two tax lots and compare them side by side, bookmark sets of layers, which you can then bookmark the layers you want and return to them later if that's something you use routinely, and access relevant links. So this is easy access to get information faster by using these new links about the property you searched. And there's some few others in there as well. Another popular application is the Population Fact Finder. This is a tool that allows users to easily create study areas or choose a predefined geography like a census tract and explore the associated population data, the demographics, social, economic, housing characteristics, and also how they change over time. A few updates include getting the 2018 to 2022 American Community Survey data in there. And coming soon, we'll be getting the 2019 to 2023 ACS update. You can access most of DCP's web applications on a tab on our website called Maps and Geography, which is next to our Open Data tab. In here, you can find DCP tools, applications, static maps on the left-hand side by clicking these links to get access to the app or the map. We also create Esri-based web applications, story maps, and dashboards. Some of them can be found on this page, or you can access them by going to our ArcGIS online site. So now that we've talked about how you can find data, maps, and apps on our website, you can forget that because it's all going to change coming April 4th when we redesign the website. So I want to walk you through those changes if you're familiar with it, where it was, and some of the limitations into how those are changing in the new website. Our goal here is to make the website easier to find information and easier to do business with city planning. So currently, if you want to access data on our web apps, if you want to access data, web apps, maps, geocoding tools, you go to a page called Data and Tools, and that name is vague and did not quite capture everything you'd find on that page. In the redesigned website, this former Data and Tools page has now been renamed to Resources. Currently, if you click on the Data Tools page, you have two sub-tabs, Open Data and Maps and Geography. The Open Data page contains our open data, but also contains some other geocoding tools like GBAT or geosurfaces, which aren't technically data, so there's some inconsistency there. And the Open Data page, just had a mix of data and some tools there. The page also contains inconsistent functions. Here you can see two data sets, both with download buttons. If you click on the download icon on one data set, you might start downloading it immediately. But if you click on the same icon in a different data set, it might direct you to a download page. So that's some of the inconsistencies our current website had. The other tab on Maps of Geography also has some inconsistencies. The name is a little misleading, being that the primarily content on this page is our web applications. There are a few static maps, so the name was a little off there, and the term geography just seems like redundant or out of place. There were even more inconsistencies on this tab. Some maps had links on the left-hand side, like city of neighborhoods or base maps, while others, like the admin and political maps, had their own section with display cards. The inconsistent functionality existed here as well. If you clicked on a web app link like Zola or Flood Hazard Mapper, an image with info would appear, and the user would have to click on that image to then gain access to the app. Others, like the Population Fact Finder, you click on it and it would go directly to the app. Another issue with this tab was that it was not comprehensive. So web applications like Capital Planning Explorer or Zoning Application Portal were listed on other parts of our website, but not in this section. So in the new redesigned website, the former 2 subtabs we just talked about are now expanded to 4. And these are data explorers, data sets, downloadable maps, and geocoding. The data explorers contain most of our web applications like Zola and Population Fact Finder. The data sets contains all of our open data. Downloadable maps contain static maps like neighborhood maps or base maps. And the geocoding tools have been moved over to the geocoding tab. So now each tab is now based on the content it serves. It will contain a comprehensive list of that content, and all pages will consistently function based on the similar icons. They'll have similar function when you're clicking, and you'll know what to expect. One of the new features on the new website is that the data sets will be arranged on content cards rather than in categories on the side or in accordion sections. Each card will be consistent, have a consistent look across the 4 tabs, so the user experience will be familiar. For example, here you can see each data page card has a title, a category, a description, update frequency, date of data, and latest version. So then users can then click on the view dataset button to download the data and to access more information about that data set. Okay, once on the dataset page, the user will see familiar look to some of our current download pages, and they all will have the same format. So it starts with an overview section, with a description, the most recent release section with the release info and the options to download, including data dictionary, README, and REST services. And when clicking on these links, the functionality will be consistent. One of the biggest improvements that I think we made is that the archive section the archive versions of all the datasets are now available in the archive section right on the data page. Formerly, you'd have to go to the archive section and then research or search that data set over again. Now they're all here together, nested together in one page. Also, the fact that we have these download pages for every data set now means that we have a unique shareable URL for each data set. So previously, if it didn't have a download page, we might have to reach out and tell you to go to a certain part of the page and then scroll down here and all these navigation instructions. This will be much simpler to share data. Also, with the update coming, the URLs for the data sets will change. And so we just wanted to alert everyone about this change. So you can see the difference on the bottom of this slide, that there's a current URL, there will be a change at the launch, and then there'll also be a future change coming based on naming convention updates that we're going to implement. The naming convention changes will come down the road sometime later this year, and they'll be rolled out incrementally. Those changes will be posted into some type of table that we'll host on the website, so you can see what the original URL was, what the future URL will be, and if that change has happened. This isn't exact, these are just examples, so it'll look something like this, but it might not be exactly what's on the screen here. So going back to the new improvements, the 4 new tabs will now have sorting and filtering functionality. When you click on the filter button, you'll see a pop-up that allows you to sort the page either alphabetically or by most recently updated. It also will allow you to filter by data category or tag. We will also provide a better search functionality. There's a search on the current page, but this searches the entire city planning website. The new search searches the data cards or the cards on the resources tab exclusively. Okay, so that covers most of the changes I wanted to highlight to the website related to data and apps. The last part is just to talk about one new open data set that's coming, which is, or it's actually released already, which is called the Greater Transit Zone and Transit Zones. So two different data sets. These came with the adoption of the City of Yes Housing Opportunity Tax Amendment, and these two data sets will allow the public to be able to understand new rules for parking and transit-oriented development. The first data set is the Greater Transit Zone, and this area is used for several zoning rules, including determining rules around qualifying residential sites. But please see the zoning resolution to see how these changes affect qualifying residential sites. They're also used to determine how non-residential parking is calculated. The second data set is transit zones. This is an area determines where special rules governing residential parking are applied. There's 4 subzones or 4 sub areas of the Greater Transit Zone, and then another one that's beyond the Greater Transit Zone. The boundaries for the Greater Transit Zone also differ from the transit zones where they overlap with special coastal risk districts. And both of these data sets are available on all of the locations we refer to. So on a DCP's website, ArcGIS Online, and within the Zoll application. We're looking to post these to the Open Data Portal soon as well. And with that, if you have any questions, we'll get to them at the end, but this is some info on how you can reach city planning for any questions about any of our open data or applications. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate your sharing this. A lot of excitement there. So next in our colleagues who have exciting things to present are our friends from the Department of Finance, Angel Adhikari and Carmela Quintos. Welcome to the Geospatial Interagency panel this year, and we're excited to see what you've got for us today.
All right. So let me just introduce myself. I'm Carmela Quintos. I'm Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Finance. I oversee the production of the annual property tax roll, as well as the tax map unit. The tax map unit is the unit that creates the tax lots, and they administer and maintain the tax map. What we're presenting today is our 3D initiative, where we're converting a current 2-dimensional tax map into 3D. I'm going to start with the background of the tax map, and Angel Adhikari is going to follow with the demo. The tax map is a special purpose map created particularly for property taxation. Each polygon represents a taxable property, and it's indexed by a borough, block, lot number, or what we know as the BBL. So the tax map unit creates that BBL number. So the tax map for each BBL shows the universe of taxable properties in the city. It shows its location, its size, and shape. It's an essential tool for city assessors and modelers when they assign the value to each property. And that value becomes the basis of property taxes. Property taxes are the single largest source of revenue for the city. 30 to 40% of city revenue comes from property taxes, and the basis of that is the tax map. That's why it's called the tax map as a prefix. On the history of the tax map, it was originally known as the digital tax map. It was created in 2008 when Mylar maps were digitized into GIS. So imagine prior to 2008, we only had paper maps. I'm sure some of you remember that. So the original digital tax map was a 2-dimensional map, which means that it's restricted to an XY coordinate system. So the map is just basically showing the land boundaries of all the properties. And being restricted to a 2-dimensional system, that means all spatial analytics are limited to 2-dimensional analytics. Spatial models are limited only to the XY coordinate. 15 years later, in 2023, the digital tax map was upgraded and is now called the Property Information Portal, or PIP. And one of the major upgrades was the ability to render in 3D. And this is very important because now we can render air and subterranean boundaries. And primarily, this is important for condominiums because you have condominium lots sitting 20 stories above ground level. So currently, a two-dimensional tax map cannot show a condo lot. And it's part of a tax map unit's function to render all taxable lots. We could not satisfy that function because of technology, because we were limited to 2 dimensions, but now we can do so with 3 dimensions. So once we complete this project, each tax lot is going to have an XYZ coordinate. So that now extends spatial models to have 3D analytics. So if you have flood models, for example, instead of just elevation, you can actually attribute effects specifically to a condo unit. You can start calculating views for each unit, for example. The main source of our data are the floor plans, which currently are in PDFs. And so the toughest part of one of the toughest part, let's put it that way, of this 3D initiative is converting floor plan PDF into 3D GIS. And going forward, we want to avoid doing that. So going forward in the future, we want to have developers submit to us AutoCAD or BIM files. Angel will now demo our 3D initiative in the property information portal. And I'm going to stop sharing.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angel. I'm research scientist with the Department of Finance. Like I started working here a year. And so today I will be walking you through the live demo. So this is our website, our official website, where we share all our map, useful features, like all the things. And today we will go through Property Information Portal, or PIP. Here we have this borough block lot that we use as BBL, which is a short form for borough block lot. And this is our 2D tax map that we are updating since 2008. So basically, this is the block like 1011, this is block. And within this block, there are like several lots. So like 29, 25, these are the lots. And so within this block too, we have like several units. Like for condominium, we have several tax units. So that is very difficult. That is almost impossible to show in 2D maps. Back in 2023, we moved to 3D, both above and below on the ground. So to capture that one, like we now have the map. For example, we can turn this on. So this shows the 3D envelope. So this is the Plaza Hotel near the Central Park. So now we have this 3D shape, like exterior of that building, and also we can turn on all buildings. So now our map can show the BBL, like spatial location of each property, and also the 3D shape of all those buildings and property within all 5 boroughs. But so we are still, so this can be like very useful, like for example, for building height calculation or number of floor to approximate those kind of features. But still, we have a lot of units within this one tax lot. So to get that, this individual building, like we are now working on digitizing all the floor plan, like as Carmela already mentioned. So basically, we have this kind of digital floor plan. And because we don't have beam model, like the 3D model nowadays that are common, but because as you all know, New York City have like very old buildings, right? So we have like floor plan for all the condominiums for most of them. And the problem here is like one of the biggest challenge for us was because they are drawn by several architects and at different times. So it is not standardized. They are classifying, for example, electric room or common element, parking unit. So the first challenge for us was to standardize all the units, all the spaces. So we developed this scheme. So now we have this scheme. So we are classifying everything that the spaces that they are using for living. So they are all residential, like condo, rental, or co-op. And those that are for commercial purpose, such as hotel, industrial, storage, theater. So we are classifying that as commercial. And limited common elements that are such as rooftop terraces, those things that are either private to any specific apartments or shared with some specific floor or some specific unit. So those are limited common element. And general common element is everything that anyone can access. like elevator, stairways, entrance, those kind of things. And we have also color coded. So the light blue for resident and dark blue commercial, yellow for LCE, limited common element, and GCE is orange. So let's go back to our tax map here and toggle to 2D. So when we click, so we have all this information. For example, we have deeds and we also have maps. So it is also publicly available. You can download floor plan maps. So which we are using to digitize. So let's see one of the building. Let's see this one. And we just toggle the 3D button. And now we have the digital 3D floor plan for these condominium buildings. So we have like almost every information, like location of each residential unit here and number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. So we have all this information in our PIP now. So for example, for this one, so as you can see, the color like dark blue, this is the hotel unit, all the ground floors, and top floors, the light blue is residential units. And this is the terrace, limited common element, limited to these top penthouses. And this orange is a general common element, like usually roof, the elevators, in entrance, those kind of things. So now if we click, we can just, this map is interactive. So when we click like some of the properties, for example, this one, so it shows all information within this, for example, like this specific apartment. This is 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. And we also have floor plans for this one. So we can zoom in. And for example, that is like this apartment. So 2-bedroom, and this is a living room. So we can visualize most of the things from there. Moreover, so next thing we are working is on digitizing like window information too. For example, this is another building, like I think one of the tallest building in New York City and skinniest building in the world. For example, so we can turn all the other buildings too. So this is, I think, 19th floor. Yep. And yeah, for this too, when you click in some of the properties, then you can see, yeah, this is 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom apartment in 19th floor. So it is basically the same size, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartment. And also, for example, this one here is, I think, 64th floor. And same 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartment with equal size. But when we do valuation, because this one have blocked view, it is ground floor, but this one has the panoramic view of the Central Park and most of the New York, right? So we cannot do valuation just based on size and those things. So that's why we are now trying to digitize all the windows so we can also include the view set for our modeling purpose. And yep. So I'll show another view for the window digitization work that we are currently working on. So these are the same building. So you can see like these small windows here. So we have digitized all those windows based on the floor plans. Also, another challenge for window was because the window height is not available in floor plan. So we are using the street lidar data, for example, from our vendors like Cyclomedia and also the aerial lidar, aerial images. So we can measure the window height. So all the window height that I'm showing here are accurate. So now we have the floor plan, and these are the windows and most of the information, but still we are missing out a lot of information that are present in the floor plan, right? Because in the floor plan, we have where is the parking area or entrance, a lot of information that is practically impossible for us to digitize, but we figure out like different solution for this one. So we now are working on to attaching this floor plan, like 2D floor plan in our 3D models. So this looks like something like this. So now we have all the data, all the information that is available in the floor plan, and also the digitized version for most of the things like height of the building and also the size of each tax lot and many of the information. Like for example, in this building, since we have this floor plan, so we know there is 2 entrances here and another entrance is over here. And also there is parking lot. From here, you can access the parking lot. And this can be useful for like emergency situation or like for housing, like many kind of properties. So there are stairways here and the elevators over here. And if you just want to see like how big are the apartments, for example, this one here is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. So now you can actually visualize, okay, so this is bedroom 1, this is bedroom 2, this is living room, and they have this open kitchen, and this is the master bathroom. And when you click, for example, this window, you have the location 2. So this window is located is at master bathroom 1, and this one is located at bedroom 2. We have all this information here. So this is like the window, and this floor plan is our future project that we are currently working on. And yeah, that's all for today. I think I've already ran over time, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity for present this, and I'm happy to take any question after this. Thank you.
Wow, this is fascinating. And I can see we're getting a lot of good questions coming in. I'm going to hold off answering them to make sure our colleague from Emergency Management, Josh Friedman, can make his presentation. And then we are going to get to all of the questions here. And as I said, also share the notes. So Josh, take it away.
All right. Can see and hear me okay? Take that as yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do a real abbreviated version because I'm also wowed by that stuff. I think I'm already thinking about potential uses. Also thinking that's a real nice bathroom for a New Yorker. So my name is Josh Friedman. I am the executive director. I run the GIS shop here at New York City Emergency Management. I've been here just a little over 17 years at this point and fulfilled many of the roles along the way on the GIS team. I'm a native New Yorker from the Bronx originally, now a Brooklynite. See, make sure I can advance the slides. Oh, there we go. So again, the elevator pitch version. Been here before, you may have seen me mention this. Emergency Management is the coordinating agency for New York City. So these quadrants, you see here, are the core elements of our mission. In addition to outreach and education of the public, we are all about planning, preparing for emergencies, coordinating and supporting response and recovery, and then collecting and disseminating information. And GIS comes in all those areas. Sorry, functions are not working so well. Most of our work traditionally is not public facing day to day. We're doing a lot to support other agency colleagues, although after emergencies that may change. Some prime exceptions, Hurricane Evacuation Zone Finder. We'll share links as part of the slideshow, and after you can go, this is up every day. It will move to an Esri map at some point, but this, along with cool options, heat resources map, are things that we support behind the scenes. And these are actually hosted by OTI, the city's IT agency. And then so just for a couple minutes, and I'll call this a teaser, I'm going to go through the bulk of our other public-facing resources supporting New York City's hazard mitigation plan. This is something I worked on when I was first here. I started in 2008. They were working on a plan revision that was adopted in 2009, and it was a 500 to 700 page paperweight. Literally, we still have it upstairs. It was for FEMA compliance. It was very difficult to wade through. Over the years, the planning teams and GIS and others have done a ton of work. So everything is now interactive online. So you can go, and here's the web address, NYCHazardMitigation.com, and that has our plan up there for the city. You can see here we're looking, it is a natural hazard plan or natural hazard mitigation plan. So we're looking at a lot of weather and other related events. And just noting some of the tools that we have in there. And again, please encourage folks to go play around here. Community risk assessment section has these dashboards They're currently undergoing, if you go to the website, you'll see some major updates that will be published shortly. But here our GIS team is working to support our planners and others. We're creating apps basically in ArcGIS Online and then serving them up as public content. And here they happen to be embedded in a website, right? And that allows, in this case, users to go and select by address or by neighborhood to pick any one of these hazard types and then to get details on maybe demographic information. We saw some of that from city planning. We have some building information that finance has helped us with over the years. I'll have to look at incorporating the 3D world. Another example of a map, right, just showing this to me is more quote unquote basic GIS, but it's assets and other critical facilities related to hazard areas, in this case, floodplains. Branching off of the hazard mitigation plan and the website, there's a couple of other tools available. One is a hazard history and consequence tool, because as the name might imply, it's an ongoing effort, an attempt to collect and make mappable and analyzable as much data, potential impact data as possible, and line it up with weather events and other things. So we're not necessarily making scientific judgments that X caused Y, but we can say if we pick a particular snowstorm on a particular day, we can look at things like data points that may represent impacts that we're seeing. And again, our GIS team and others are supporting this work. And there's different ways you see here to view and interpret the data in maps, graphs, etc. One more, so here, tree emergencies. This is something where every time it rains or we find heavy rain, we're working with our partners to track and support this information. So I think that was a very quick run. That's my thank you slide. I'll just close with a pitch. I have some colleagues from our agency on Thursday, if you want to see a little more in the afternoon, are presenting on how we use 311 data from another city partner to prepare for and respond to and recover from emergencies. And then as part of the School of Data event on Saturday, there's some colleagues talking about another tool that I didn't feature here, which is our Urban Risk Index, which is being redone, again, looking at vulnerabilities in the population of New York City. But with that, I'll toss it back to Lee, I guess, to see we have some great questions going on.
That's great. Thank you all. This was really fascinating. And let's jump into questions here. Early on, David asked if we have more data open houses. We do Open Data Week in this panel once a year, but any of my colleagues know, are there open houses or other forums where you do presentations on your open data or on, for example, mapping tools?
I can think of, this is Josh, there are local professional organizations. I know Gizmo is one. A lot of us are members, saying that just personally, it's a New York City mapping and professional GIS organization. So they organize events, I know, and that's, whether in official capacities or not, a way to get some exposure to the city GIS community. That's one I know.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea. Gizmo NYC. And when we send this out, like somebody doesn't have the URL in the chat, we can add that. Let's see. I'm just trying to sort through the introductions back to the questions. We've got the presentations. Does this map also tell you the zoning? The 3D model looks great. So this is about the property information portal.
So currently the property information portal or the tax map doesn't have a zoning layer, but we could consider adding that in the future.
Okay, for the zoning, you can go to city planning.
We have a link. We do have a link
Oh,
out
okay,
in the
great.
property information portal to DCP.
Zola, yeah.
Yeah.
And is the 3D buildings, not the ones necessarily that you're using, but there are 3D building footprints available on the Open Data portal. And so if you have GIS software, you could download your own 3D models of the NYC buildings and then overlay them on top of our zoning data that we make available.
Great, thank you. Next question. Will the map also include the NYC public buildings? Are we still talking about?
The 3D. So long as we have the floor plan, yes. It will be included.
Oh, great. Raksha asks, how are the assessment values calculated for apartments? Are those self-reported by the residents?
It's not self-reported. So currently we value apartments, condos in this case, according to state and city law, which is that we have to basically value them according to comparable rental buildings. However, there is a push for tax reform where condos and co-ops will be valued using their sales price. And when that occurs, then the views are going to be very important at that point because we will be valuing co-ops and condos by sales price at that point. However, right now, we are valuing it the way the state tells us to value it, which is to find comparable rental buildings and assign that value to co-op or condos.
That's great. Marnie asks, how were property taxes figured out before this? Anything more you want to say about that?
We're doing it the way the state, the city tells us to, which is to find comparable rental buildings and assign the income that they earn to the co-ops and condos.
Very good. Another question is this information all public? It seems like it violates some privacy issues. Does that
It's
come
all
up?
public. It's all public. So if your concern is the floor plans, condo floor plans are inaccurate. They are recorded with your deed. So all the information in the property information portal, it's public knowledge. We're just congregating it into one portal.
Making it more accessible with
Right. That's why it's
Thank you.
important.
data transparency and
Yeah.
making things easier to find. Very good. Let's see. Someone asked for a link to the tax map and Angel put it right in the chat. Let's see. Yes, thank you, Amanda, for New York State GIS Association. The link is there too. And yes, Josh mentioned emergency management open data sessions later this week, and city planning has some too as well. That link is there in the chat. Is there more information about the rental building comparisons and methods used?
So it's in our website. If you go to the property division under assessments, you're going to see some information there. I can put the link in the chat.
Okay, that's the last question I see here. So I'm going to just take a moment to thank the panelists from finance, from city planning, and from emergency management, and thank Open Data Week team for hosting us. Have a great day, everyone, and see you at Open Data events, and look for more exciting GIS presentations next year. But in the meantime, New York State and Gizmo have GIS associations, and we'll make sure those links are in the materials we send out. Take care. Have a great day.